Tell us something. Give us a story.
Good stuff. Well, again, happy to join you all today. My name is Shayla Moon. I am a government relations professional, homegirl, West Coaster, all those great things. And very happy to speak on certainly someone that was impactful on my life and my journey, and it is my father.
Yeah.
I grew up in Denver, Colorado, in a funeral home family, and my father was a mortician by trade.
Okay.
And why I am in this space and wanting to help my community is because I saw how my dad every day 24/7 because the joke is death and funeral home business is a business that never dies.
Right.
It's
Right.
always there.
Right.
But I saw how my father poured into the community and how he treated certainly everyone the same.
Right.
And there's no greater space than to be of service to people, certainly when they need you and at a time of need. And that in the space of bereavement is where I saw my father step up.
You know what? When you said in a space of bereavement, that made me think about that movie, The Family, with Chris Rock, all of them. And he kept using that word bereavement, but he was using it with a W. I just said that. I just
Bereavement.
Yeah.
No,
But if you can put the mic a little bit more
Okay.
direct on you.
There we go.
I got the
A little bit of feedback.
So yeah, go ahead.
I got you.
Finish your story.
But my father, he's now deceased. He passed away in 2019 in a car accident. Literally was leaving the cemetery with the family and was T-boned. But I couldn't, certainly fathom my father leaving this earth other than the space of knowing he was helping others, and it was in that instance. My dad, the only child, growing up in Denver, Colorado, born and raised.
Name again? I'm sorry.
Everett Windsor Moon.
Say it again.
Everett Windsor Moon.
One more time.
EW. Everett Windsor Moon. Also
Moon.
known as Boots.
Boots.
Also, again, depending on who you're talking to, P Naughty. Prettiest.
Hold up. P Naughty?
Yes.
That's okay.
That was his college nickname. The
P-Naughty.
prettiest Negro on the yard.
That's funny. That's what's up.
He had a swag to him again.
That's
so
exactly.
so who I saw at homecoming was dramatically different from the gentleman who I saw picking me up from school. But those were my memories of even my father picking me up from school. I used to joke that my dad ruined my middle school life because he was running late one day and actually picked me up in the hearse in front of everybody.
Wow.
So it was one of those things, but came to have an appreciation for my father that regardless, he was going to expose me to the business.
Okay.
And again, with that came to certainly, as I said, meeting people where they are. I saw how my father treated, someone who may have been a part of a welfare case, struggling to certainly bury their loved one. And I saw how my father treated certainly the richest people buried in African mahogany caskets, and he treated and talked to them the same way.
Same way.
And that was a consistent thing of one, understanding compassion, but also people are human, regardless of their socioeconomic status or even where they lived. My dad was courageous. As mentioned, growing up in a funeral family, we had two mortuaries within the same family serving the same Black community in a 1-mile radius. My father thought that he was going to inherit the business, and my great aunt said absolutely not. He didn't have the capital initially to buy it from her, so she ended up selling it off to another entity. So it split the family, but it also created more of a family business environment because everyone pitched in. I mean, my memories every day after school was at the mortuary. So it's me watching Video Soul and doing certainly the Running Man, listening to MC Hammer, while another family's in the other room listening to James Cleveland and their loved one. It was weird. But those are the things that stuck with me. But my dad, Everett Windsor Moon, and every male in my family has the name Windsor in it. Windsor, from my great-great-grandfather, Negro named Windsor, who was sold off. And so his son, my great-great-grandfather, G.I. Curran, he had his son, named him Windsor Silas. My grandmother's brother, he's Windsor Marcellus. My dad is Everett Windsor. My brother is Chabron Windsor. My son is Carson Windsor. My nephew is, as a means of having that continuity. And again, there was something regal that came with it, and how the expectation of how men carried themselves, not only because of this ancestor that we don't know what happened to him, but one, most importantly, you're just having that legacy of males and men living in our family.
That's spiritual DNA as well. Y'all kept passing that on to your ancestors and all. That's
Indeed.
That's deep.
But for business, I saw my father step out on faith. He struggled.
Right.
And in that instance, as I said, he thought that he was going to have almost an inherent business in that space, but had to scramble up money, and he was driving taxis at the end of all evening, working for the coroner, while in the day trying to maintain a business to support his family. And that's not lost on me.
Okay, so that really brings it to where you are now and how you operate is what you saw. I mean, even treating everybody the same. I can see that when you walked in, you had the same bubbly feeling, whether it's somebody who you think may be a billionaire or somebody that's just a regular job. You seem like you do that. You don't single nobody. You treat everybody the same.
You meet people where they are. And again, it also, with my father coming from that background, he had a natural curiosity of people. Who are you? What is your journey? And again, what also led people? And growing up in Denver, is one of those migrant towns.
Right.
Black folks who ended up in Denver, unlike, hoods here, Denver doesn't have any hoods, because a black middle class was always made either on the military, mining, or leaning in certainly into now the space of just economic opportunity. We were the migration west. And so it was a curiosity that came because you had Black folks who were coming from Texas, who were coming from Missouri, who were coming from Kansas City. And my father was just fascinated, and even it carried on to me, to where after school I was reading, certainly get my snack and read obituaries.
Wow.
And so it gave an intersection and understanding of not only history, but also understanding some of the challenges that we have faced in the different things, not only in health, professions, but also just looking at community development.
Wow. And what about you, sis? Let's chime in here. What about your daddy's story? Your papa's story?
Well, my papa's story is a little different, and it's the reason why the Greater Washington. One of the reasons why the difference between her story and my story is what fueled us to do some research, and it fueled us to think about families, and in the endangered Black family.
Yes.
And it's endangered because public policy has criminalized, dehumanized, and legally removed the Black father from the family.
That's deep.
And we can go to lots of policies. It could go the school to prison pipeline, the war, the fake war on drugs, redlining, child welfare laws, and on and on. That's right? Deep. So I have a little different story than she does.
So who was your dad?
I had 3.
Wow. Give it to him.
So my biological father, Clifford Cornelius Robinson, who I look just like. Clifford Cornelius. So he was a corporate exec with Dow Chemical and also an entrepreneur. So he had a liquor business. He had payday loan business because he didn't want Black folks going to white payday loan places.
Wow.
So he created a
payday loan.
Yep.
Wow.
And he was also an SBA executive. So he was very much into providing capital to small Black businesses. Wow. So again, I inherited my father's love for business, and ultimately went to FAMU and then to Harvard Business School.
Yeah. Okay.
My second father actually is the reason why I understand the importance of what happens when the father is not well. and is not there for the family. My mother did sustain 5 years of domestic violence. So in my formative years, as I was growing up, from the age of 3 to, let's say, 8, I watched my mother in the hospital every weekend.
Wow.
It in that situation, what I learned afterwards was that my stepfather, suffered from mental health illness, and back in those days, nobody knew, and we weren't being diagnosed, and so he turned to alcohol. And so the alcoholism, the paranoia that came with his mental health disorder, caused him to be an angry and violent man.
Wow.
And yet that wasn't who he really was.
Wow. And that's deep how you was able to process that way and it not be just trauma. But you was able to explain, you're able to process and understand where that came from.
Yeah. I mean, it does have the challenge, though, of which is why I want fathers to be, and we want to repair and unify fathers, rejoin fathers to their families, and ensure that there's a healthy child-father relationship. There was a level of insecurity that comes when the father is not there. I didn't have a man to say, "Baby girl, you're beautiful." I didn't have a father to say, "Baby girl, it's going to be all right." I didn't have a father at that time that protected me and allowed me to feel secure. So insecurity was a huge factor for me as I was growing up. I had to fight through that. I had to do therapy to get that. And then, lo and behold, my mother gets divorced, and a year later she gets remarried, and she married what? A preacher.
Oh, okay.
She married an AME minister who had been set aside when he was a teenager. Followed in footsteps, of many of his folks that come, his fathers before him.
Mm-hmm.
And I then watched, and he was in my life for at least 40 something years.
Okay.
And I literally watched him preach the gospel that whole time. And it's because of him that when it was time for me to heal and address my insecurities, address that absence of confidence or otherwise, that I turned to the Lord.
Wow.
And I turned to the church because he showed me the way.
Okay.
So at one point in time, he actually said, "I'm going to need you to go to seminary." And I said, "Not me."
Yep. And what's his name again?
His name is David A. Perry.
David A. Perry. Say it one more
David
time.
A. Perry.
Wow.
Otherwise known as DAP.
DAP.
Or Papa D.
Papa D. Yeah. So that's the topic of this week. Just how our fathers, plural for you, had an impact on what we're doing right now in our business.
And his impact on me, my again, they all had an impact on me. Yes. But my Papa D showed me what it meant to be a servant leader.
Wow.
He showed me that the purpose in life was to save somebody else's.
And that's what you're doing.
And that's what I'm doing.
That's what you're doing. Yeah. So we got another slew of interviews.
Absolutely.
Happening. And I appreciate y'all bringing your presence on this.
Thank you so much, brother.
We're gonna do many more of this, and especially I'm really digging bereavement. That's
bereavement. Oh my God, you got jokes, Tate.
I look forward to later. I'm about to be out there checking out the whoever the vendor is today with the.
Oh yes, we got to go get the foods from Chef Jay.
Yeah.
There you go.
All righty.
So
thank you so much. All righty.